Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on this episode, we bring you our full recap of the 2026 trade deadline. And it was an eventful one here in Birdland, for better or worse, with Adley Rutschman being shipped to the Boston Red Sox among the deals that we saw on deadline day. We're going to break down that trade and a few others. But to start things off, Bob told me before we went on air that he had a disclaimer that he wanted to give. So I'm going to let him take the opportunity to give that now, and then we'll dive into our analysis.
Yeah, so if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We gave our immediate reactions from 5:30 to 6:30 roundabouts, and for patrons as well. So if you want those hot takes, you can go get them. But basically what I want to say is Adley Rutschman leaving the Orioles in this way is tough. You have every right to feel upset, disappointed, sad, to feel all the feels. If you're not quite ready for a reasonable, logical discussion on the trades that happened today and where it puts the organization, and just looking at it from a totally, you've listened to us before, probably. You know how we are. We're not gonna give you the hot takes. So Connor Newcomb on Locked On Orioles did a great job going off on Mike Elias in the front office. If that's the type of mood you're in and you wanna feel that rage, pause this podcast. Go listen to some other takes. Come back when you sleep on it and calm down a little bit. That's all.
Now, Nick, I want to go over to you here because you were not on the live reaction so earlier. And let's start with the Adley trade. And I think by now anybody listening to this has this trade memorized by heart. But it was Adley Rutschman and Jake Rogers, recently acquired from the Tigers, along with cash considerations in exchange for prospects, right-handed pitcher Kyson Witherspoon, outfielder Andy Azokar, along with right-handed pitcher Anthony Iacin, plus Major League catcher Carlos Nevarez, and a player to be named later. Iacin, as I covered on our instant reaction show, comes into the farm system as not only probably the clear-cut top pitching prospect, but arguably the top pitching prospect overall. He is the headliner in this deal, which, for very understandable reasons, is not well-liked among Orioles fans right now. So, Nick, I'll start with you here because you look at the trade that the Orioles get back. It's a pretty big haul back from the Red Sox, but at the same time, the former face of the franchise, the guy who was the face of the franchise up until today, arguably, now is with the Red Sox. The Adley era in Baltimore is over. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, forget what Bob said. Let's do this. Before we dive into like the player takes, I guess I'll have a chance here to just give my thoughts. And couldn't jump on at 5:30 with you guys for that initial reaction, but the extra 3-4 hours did nothing to help me process any of this. Still going to need that extra gummy tonight. Good night's sleep, reassess everything in the morning. But I understand like why you trade him, right? The return, yes, was unbelievable for a catcher currently on the IL. Last year of control, next year could be impacted by the lockout, all that stuff. I understand the risk of extending a catcher as he flips to the other side of 30. I understand all the IL time and underperformance. He's really didn't live up to expectations, but it's just kind of seeing all the momentum on a potential Adley deal earlier this afternoon was just like a real punch to the gut. I know you say that all the time, but like it really did. Like it was a very emotional moment of just like this is getting for. I think Mark Feinstein was like the first to be like, no, there's real steam here. And then just more and more reports, and it was just like, oh, this is real. Like, this is really happening. The Taylor Ward trade, figured that was coming. I don't think anybody has a real emotional attachment to Taylor Ward, but I did enjoy his time when he was there and became a big fan of his. That one I could understand. I could even see a situation where, okay, all right, Dean Kramer, great sell, as we talked about. Taylor Ward, I get it. If you want to bring in some potential bullpen pieces here, I get that. But then when it became clear this was a bigger sell and Adley was going to go, it's not so much Adley, it's just what he represented. That glimpse of hope when he was that first pick in 2019. Like you mentioned, he was the face of the rebuild, who the core was going to be built around. The first time all three of us got together in person was at a Bay Sox game when Adley was there behind the plate. And I don't know if you guys remember, his family was even there, like right below us. And we were in the press box and it was like, he's getting called up, right? His family's here to help him move to Norfolk. He's getting the call up. It was a few more weeks. He didn't get the call up because he stayed in AA way too long. But, it's just, there was real hope. There was belief that this organization was climbing out of the darkness. And this was just the beginning And then to see him, not just his tenure see the way it ended, but that he goes to a division rival and the Red Sox in particular, like, yeah, that does, from a fan emotional perspective, that sucks. Today was miserable. I hated it. I hate that it ended like this. I hate that his tenure in Baltimore ended like this. And it just felt like you were in such a good place after that Tiger series, and you win that first game against the Phillies. You moved Dean Kramer for a really good prospect, and my thought was like, yes, more of this. Sell off Major League excess that has any value. Move some Rule 5 prospects for younger prospects. Kick that can down the road a little bit, but you're buying and selling. Whatever you're selling from the farm, you can replenish it. Maybe it's 75% value right now, but you replenish it a little bit with some of those fringe roster moves. But then, honestly, I don't even care that the Dodgers got Skubal, and I didn't care what the odds of every other team winning the World Series are now, 1%. I don't care about any of that. It just felt like you lost that game against the Phillies, the Christopher Sanchez. Okay, no shame in that, right? The offense, there was a lot to be ashamed of that day, but no shame in losing to Christopher Sanchez. Sunday was crappy weather, terrible decision-making by everybody, letting that field turn into a swimming pool. Literally wash it away. You get the Angels, Rangers, and Twins next. Come out of those 9 games with a winning record, then go out with some new ammunition, get a reliever, get some help, get a bat to infuse some life into this lineup. And then you got, 10 straight, I think, 9 or 10 straight against the Rays and Yankees. That was your chance to make a statement, put yourself firmly in the driver's seat potentially of a playoff spot. And let's see. And it just feels like today kind of sucked the life out of that. And I don't know what the clubhouse is feeling. I'm sure they'll give you stock PR answers, but I can't imagine this team is going to come out tomorrow full of life and vigor and excitement and ready to play. But it just seems like you made an already tough assignment even more difficult. And it just sucks to be so invested in this playoff race and then to watch and see how today played out. It's hard to have clear thoughts right now. I think, like you said, people are angry and they should be. They have every right to be angry. God forbid some people learn to channel that anger into productive conversation, but I know that's not possible on social media or in comment sections. But I'll just say, it hurts to see Adley go. It hurts to see the front office do nothing to help in 2026. There's more to blame than, one particular member of the front office. Players need to take a lot of accountability as well for their poor play this year. And it's not just Adley. It was more about what he represents. And, I'm not a fan of, I'm an Orioles fan first. I don't give a shit about Elias specifically. I'm not a fan of any front office member. I want my favorite sports teams owners to stay quiet and be an ATM, nothing more. Players will come and go. I get that. The Orioles will always be here, hopefully. That's who I cheer for. That's who I want, all of us together celebrating a World Series for the Orioles. But it's just that, I don't know, today just felt different. It just felt like that end of that Adley era did represent something a little bit bigger, and it's just like an entire bucket of failure. And it's too full right now. It's full to the brim right now, and it kind of stinks. And I'm not gonna say I'm done with the 2026 Major League season, but I'm definitely going to take a step back here from the Major League squad for at least a couple of days and reassess and get back to cheering for the Orioles. But yeah, right now it does suck. It does hurt a little bit.
Yeah, and before we get into the return, I'd like to. That was incredibly well said. Thank you, Nick. Today sucks. No matter how thrilled I may be with the return for Adley Rutschman on just separating the two things, it sucks. It's a bad day. Even with how pleased I am with how they did in the execution of what they did, I felt sick to my stomach when that first report was rolling in that he was potentially going to the Red Sox. And every time I saw an update, my stomach clenched, and I'm like, "Oh no, please no, not the Yankees or the Red Sox, anyone but them. Can't it be the White Sox? Something like that." And it's just, I talked about it on our live reaction, but Adley, especially for us, is very signifies importance, the rising of this new organization under the new front office and finally entering the modern age of baseball and being on the cutting edge. And he's the number one prospect when we start our podcast, and he comes up and he makes his debut, and it's probably the best 2 years of my fandom from Orioles, from mid-season 2022 to mid-season 2024. Just couldn't ask for anything better. And obviously the last 2 years have been incredibly disappointing. But yeah, it hurts to lose Adley no matter what. But if you separate, I'm going to transition here, okay? Because I really, and every time I see him in a Red Sox uniform, I'm going to want to throw up, like legitimately. But if you can separate that level of importance that we put onto him, he's been on IL 5 times the past 12, 13 months. He's been outside of March/April of this season. He's been a league average bat for the past 2 seasons. And he's literally on the IL right now. He's not even playing. And he's a free agent after 2027. And there might not even be a 2027 season. And we got one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, another top 5 prospect of the Red Sox, and another pitcher, another top 10 prospect, 19-year-old exciting guy. And we got a catcher, by the way, who's under control for like 4 more seasons and is a good defender and a decent bat as well. So, I mean, and we got a player to be named later. Don't forget that. So thrilled with the return. Honestly, we talked about this again, just some quotes flying out there on Twitter and in Blue Sky and what have you, that one of the most lopsided trade deadline deals in the history of the sport. So it feels good to at least be on that side. But yeah, I can't deny that despite all of what I just said, I still feel really bad right now.
And like, I was listening to a Mariners podcast, their reaction to the Luis Castillo trade going to the White Sox. And I mean, obviously everybody's well aware of the Luis Castillo decline over the last few years. He's not the same Luis Castillo from many years ago, but the way they put it was like, to them, like personally as a fan and from that emotional aspect, like Luis Castillo getting traded to the Mariners was kind of like their moment. His debut was their moment that really kicked off their podcast and like kicked off their listenership and the community that they had created. And so he held a special place in their hearts. And like Bob just touched on, like Adley kind of did that for us. Like the Adley highlights, the Adley conversation drove all that traffic. It drove people to us and our podcast and eventually Patreon and all this stuff. And then, yeah, it's just kind of to see the end of that, see all of that come to the end here. It's just another kind of somber hit, I think, personally for all of us.
One hot take I'm not going to accept right now, and I understand why people are upset, but one hot take I'm not going to accept is anything that implied drafting Adley somehow led to failure. Because I saw a little bit of that today, like, oh, you got 2 first, early playoff exits out of it. You got back-to-back playoff appearances when you hadn't been in the playoffs in nearly a decade in the hardest division in baseball. That is not nothing. And the fact that they didn't get out, you know what? The fact that they didn't win a series, honestly, the playoffs are a crapshoot. Now, everything that happened after 2024, yeah, you've got every right to gripe about that. It has been awful to watch since then. But I'm not going to take it was a total failure, because it wasn't. It just wasn't. And there are a lot of franchises that would take that 2 years right now, even if it led them back to the spot that the Orioles are in. Now, as far as the trade itself goes, if they had held on to Adley a couple more months and this was the inevitable conclusion and they missed the playoffs anyways, it probably was smart to deal him now. But I understand why people are upset, especially in the year where the Orioles have a chance to make it. And you guys are right. I mean, for us as a show, the Adley era, we were basically coming in right at the beginning of the Adley era. We saw that whole thing. It is disappointing, but at the end of the day, there is still baseball to be played here, and I'm not just going to throw everything out because Adley's gone.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a great point. And I had a point I was going to make on top of it, and I seemingly have just been too depressed to think of what it was.
If we want to dive into some of the players, I know you guys touched on it a little bit there, but some thoughts on, go ahead.
I found it. I wanted to piggyback on 2023 was a magical season. And I think I jokingly said, don't minimize division titles. I feel like the long regular season titles, 101 wins, best record in the AL, win the division. That's, to me, obviously I would rather win a World Series than have that and then flame out in the playoffs like we did. But that's more impressive to me to do that than to get lucky, or not lucky, hot, get scorching hot like the Rangers did in the playoffs and have a nice 4 weeks and win the World Series. Yeah, I would rather have done that. But 101 wins, winning the division title, the Adam Frazier, this is why Adam Frazier double to win against the Rays. That shit will, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. So
Yeah. And even just the Hall of Fame as well the other day, and seeing Chris Davis, listening to Chris Davis in the booth, it was just, vibes just seemed good. And yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I like to talk about some of the players coming back if you guys want to a little bit. I like the Carlos Narvaez. I'm intrigued. Like Bob said, multiple years of control. He's actually not ARB eligible until 2028, I believe. So, like he showed a lot of pop last year with the Red Sox. Got 15 home runs. It was a league average bat. So for a catcher, like above league average. One of the best defensive metrics, grading out beautifully last year. Still well this year. Like obviously, I don't follow the Red Sox, so I don't know if you guys know, or I'm sure somebody listening will understand. Like maybe what's happened with Narvaez this year, I don't know, but the numbers aren't as good as they were last year. But still, he was a 3-WAR catcher last year. It's not nothing. Maybe you hope Ethan Anderson can get to the big leagues with a strong bat and be an even better option to partner with Basayo, and maybe someone else pops. The catcher health in this organization is very strong behind Samuel Basayo up at the top. But yeah, until someone else kind of takes the spot from Narvaez, I think he's going to be a pretty interesting catcher there for the Orioles. The pitchers though, Anthony Ianson and Kyson Witherspoon, I'm still not there. But maybe when we do the top 50 next week, maybe by then I'll feel better. This will be behind us. A couple good nights sleep will be good. But in the last 5 years, when I've been dialed in and heavily into college season, draft prep, and all of that stuff, Anthony Ianson and Kyson Witherspoon are two of the top college pitchers I think I've enjoyed watching in the last 5 years. Especially Anthony Ianson when he was at LSU. And Witherspoon, I don't know if you guys remember this, at one point last year was being mocked to the Orioles. When they picked 30, they picked in the back of the first round. Witherspoon was heavily mocked to the Orioles, but then he pitched so well at Oklahoma. He was projected to be a top 10 pick and then quote unquote falls to the Red Sox at 15 over there. But Ianson somehow falls down to the third round, but I truly cannot believe that now both of these guys, again, it stings how they got here, but eventually when I'm over all of this, the fact that both of these guys are in the Orioles system is unbelievable. I truly, Ianson, I think for sure there's no way I've sat down with my list. I didn't even sat down with the top 50 before today, but I think Ianson is slam dunk down my number one prospect in the system. And he's clearly one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. He's one of the top overall prospects in baseball. And he was unbelievable at LSU. Fastball was 93 to 94, touch 98, tons of life on it. I wrote about last year and doing my weekly draft coverage article after I watched him, one of his outings. It was his 11th or 12th start of the year. So he was deep into the year. The slider had a 60% whiff rate, 3,200 RPM slider. As a pro, he's got that slider has a 50% whiff rate already. The curveball is a hammer curveball. He's added a cutter. He's added a splitter. And yeah, he's backed off the velo, but watching him at the Futures game in Philadelphia the week, he was 99, 99, 99, 99, 100. The guy throws gas. It's a beautiful delivery. This is him, and imagine LSU fans. They got to watch Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson back-to-back days when they were there. I love this Ianson pick. This is a dude. I think he's going to be challenging for the big leagues at the end of next year, to be completely honest. Kyson Witherspoon, a little bit different. He's the $5 million arm, 15th overall pick last year, hasn't had the same success. Seems like there's questions about, the fastball, and that a lot of that success was driven by just pure velo. The big thing at Oklahoma last year was that he cut the walk rate tremendously. He went to the Cape Cod League, didn't walk anybody. He pitched for Team USA, was fantastic. Translated that to success at Oklahoma. That's what shot him up to the first half of the first round. But you talk about that moldable clay. We always talk about that with guys. Take that moldable clay and a $5 million first round arm, who is a prime piece of moldable clay. And if you've been curious about what the Orioles could do with that type of arm, here you go. Here's the experiment that we get to watch unfold now with Kyson Witherspoon. The numbers are what they are, but I'm very intrigued to see what he looks like at this point next year, after he's had some time in the Orioles system. And yeah, as a card, just a little sweetener to the deal, if you will. Just 19-year-old outfield prospect. The numbers are fantastic. The power's really shining this year. Another Fangraphs has him as a 50 future grade prospect with 50, 60 grades across the board. And I don't know I'm sure they tagged you on a Blue Sky, the Oyster Analytics guys, their thing. That was pretty cool. There's triple threat in contact power and K avoidance. Although the note contact rates aren't amazing, but biggest, and they are the big threat to his road to the show. But plus outfielder, 67th overall hitter in their model. Swing decisions need work, but they comped him to Mickey Moniak, who coincidentally just signed a contract extension with the Rockies. But yeah, this deal is, if we look ahead now to the future, the Red Sox, I don't know what they were thinking.
It ain't just this trade either. God, they are gutting everything to win it all this year, apparently. Yeah, great breakdown. I mean, like you said, Carlos Narvaez, he can step in. And look, I was worried about if you traded Adley, because it seemed like the hints started a couple days before the deadline that it could potentially happen. It seemed like it still was a long shot. But obviously, what I wanted to say is, if this didn't happen, like if they said this is an incredible package, but we can't trade Adley, and something leaks, and you saw that this was the offer, that I wouldn't believe it. I just wouldn't believe that they offered this, and I would be pissed if I did believe it, and then the Orioles turned it down. So Narvaez can step right in and be that guy that can split time and catch with Basayo. Like that's why I kind of thought like a Chicago White Sox, if you could get Kyle Teal back and like a Hagen Smith, something like that could work. But Narvaez works as well. That's fine. And you still have Ethan Anderson, and you still have some catcher prospects in the minor leagues.
Ethan Anderson, Kyle Teal back together again. Hope Ethan Anderson hates catching because he wouldn't do it again.
But yeah, Ianson, I think, is immediately my number one prospect as well. Like you said, haven't dove deep into that yet, but seems pretty simple to me. He's filthy nasty. Like, man, we have Ianson, Jirwa, Caden Hunter, Luis De Leon, and a million other pitchers. Like, goodness gracious. We have to be one of the best now after these deals, especially getting Michael Ferret back. Mind-blowing. We have to be like one of the best collection of minor league pitching prospects in the game, if not the best. So that's exciting. Witherspoon, like you said, the moldable clay, there's a lot of clay here. People that wanted us to do that first round pitcher all these years, well, basically here you go, like you said. And yeah, Azekar, very exciting young player to be named later too. I don't know if that's like dependent on how many games Adley plays at the end of the season or what, but that's kind of interesting too. So slam dunk, an offer you couldn't refuse, Godfather style.
Just to put this into perspective, Azekar is having a good enough year between low A and high A in the Red Sox system that it's very possible to believe that he'll start next year in Chesapeake as a 20-year-old. And we talk a lot about the development of young international position players, particularly outfielders, in this farm system. And we're happy if they're putting up good numbers in Delmarva at age 20, or they're just getting to high A at age 20. I think right now you could easily pencil him in to an outfield slot with the Bay Sox at the beginning of next year. Witherspoon, I think you're both right. You know, there are some flaws when you look right now. He's a pretty heavy fly ball pitcher, and it looks like he's been punished on home runs this year, but there's definitely multiple clay there to work with. And Ianson, I'm kind of hoping we see him in Norfolk towards the end of this season, if nothing else, because I want a really good look at the Pitts data, but the numbers and the production speak for themselves in the minor leagues, not to mention his time at LSU.
If it helps, if any little bit helps, like both Witherspoon and Ianson, from their time in college, like off the charts makeup. These are like A-plus dudes, A-plus human beings. From what little I know, I just don't know them personally, but just hearing the way LSU and Oklahoma programs talk about them when they were there, just extra boxes that they're checking off. But yeah, this is when it comes to Ianson, Orioles don't have we've been on the pitching prospect train for so many years now. Orioles don't have a pitching prospect like this in the system. Like Joseph Giro is great. He's been great this year, but Anthony Ianson, I think is a clear tier above Joseph Giro right now.
This is like approaching Grayson Rodriguez at his peak type of stuff to me.
I mean, he's what, I don't know was Pipeline having like what top 50 or so? I don't know what like actual real outlets have him ranked.
But he's
as,
got
like,
helium too. Like
yeah, this because he was in spring training. They caught him on like the backfields after Boston had drafted him. The backfields this year in spring training, he's pumping 99 miles an hour. People are like, oh, he wasn't doing that in college. I mean, he could flirt with it, sure, but he was holding like mid 90s velo, and you're like, oh, okay, this is for real. Which, by the way, Elijah, if you're listening to this, in our Dynasty, on the Verge Dynasty Baseball League, I would like Anthony Ianson back. I traded Anthony Ianson, and now I regret that deal. But yeah, like this is a guy who, it's both Witherspoon and Ianson, like where they are now and where their ceilings are, there's a very wide gap. And I'm very intrigued because, again, Orioles pitching development, very, very underrated. Getting much more recognition and deserved credit nationally, but give this organization some time to work with both of these guys, and I think Orioles fans will be pleasantly surprised over the next couple of months.
Let's go over the Taylor Ward trade now. And this is one that, as I explained on our live update earlier today, I was not surprised by. I think that the writing was kind of on the wall that Ward was going to be traded. For one thing, this was not, at least not seen to be going into deadline day, a good market for bats. We also knew the Mariners had an obvious need in the outfield, and Ward was a logical pickup for them. In return, they're going to send two minor league pitchers to the Orioles. That's right-handers Brock Moore and Harrison Kryling to go along with Alex Hopp, who is currently in the Mariners bullpen. And Hopp is kind of a case study in a reliever whose baseline numbers this year have not been good, but the underlying pitch data is a lot better than that. I think Moore and Kryling, we're both still learning. We're all still learning a little bit about both of those guys, but Bob, just to throw it to you here, what are your thoughts on this trade now that we've had a little bit more time to absorb it than we did earlier today?
Well, the Orioles lost out on the Logan O'Hop sweepstakes, so they just went out and got another Hop and brought him to the O's. Kind of works. Yeah, this is the one, like, you knew Ward was getting traded. I woke up this morning and I was like, Taylor Ward's going to be traded today. There's no doubt in my mind. And yeah, he was. It didn't take very long. I think he was like one of those guys is like, we'll just shop him. Best offer we can get, as long as it's better than a qualifying offer, or, as I put it on the live reaction show, getting stuck with another year of Taylor Ward. Like that would be some bad, terrible thing. No, but it just might not have been, gave them the flexibility that you want in a corner outfield spot when you still have Tyler O'Neill on the hook for another year. So I think they basically wanted not to have Taylor Ward on this roster next year, just to give themselves more flexibility, more defensive possibilities, especially since the power wasn't what maybe they expected coming in. So I think they were just going to get the best deal they got. And clearly this is what they thought was the best deal. Yes, it's a bunch of older guys, mostly relief prospects. I do think that Kryling is like a sleeper late bloomer starting pitcher prospect because he missed some time after the draft and he's really just getting his professional career started. Looks like he has some interesting stuff. Hop and Moore seem like just filthy relievers that just need to work on that control/command. Here's a tweet from Past the Eye Test who says, all three pitchers acquired by Baltimore for Ward seem to be relievers with big stuff, and Alex Hopp seems to be the best one. He's major league ready. An 18.7 K to walk percentage and a FIP in the high twos, led by a devastating slider and two high-octane fastballs, high leverage potential, and about as good as you'll get for half of a year of Taylor Ward. And then here's Thomas Nesteco, TJ Stats with a long post here. A trio of pitchers to the Orioles. Alex Hopp made his MLB debut this season, posting a 5.79 ERA and 2.94 FIP across 28 innings. He can hit triple digits with his fastball and supplements it with a tight two-plane slider. I like his outlook as a mid-range reliever. Brock Moore is a flame-throwing right-handed relief pitching prospect who can hit 100 miles per hour, but has struggled with walks over his career. He has fantastic spin capacity and average over 20 inches of glove side movement on his low 80 sweeper. Harrison Kryling is a 24-year-old prospect who had his pro debut delayed due to injury. He's only thrown 10 innings since his selection in the draft. Not much information on him. He averaged 94 miles per hour on his fastball. Trio of secondaries. I have been a fan of the Orioles pitching development lab for a few years, and I am excited to see what they can cook with these arms. although they all project to be reliever long term. So that's basically how I feel as well. Like they clearly saw traits they like that they can improve, and let the lab cook, see what we can do. We need leverage relievers.
Kind of just felt like you moved Taylor Ward for 3 shots at a good reliever. And if you can get just one of these guys to hit, then it ends up being a pretty decent deal. I like Hop, 27 years old. And you look at his expected numbers this year in the big leagues with the Mariners, way better than like the surface level ERA is like almost 6, but 3.63 expected ERA, 2.88 FIP. I don't know. Orioles 2026 defense behind him may not help him out a ton either, but many years of control. He's got the options as well. I think he could be a decent bullpen option for this team moving forward. He's getting his feet wet now in the big leagues. He's listed at 6'1", but it's 6.5 feet of extension, and he touches triple digits. Like he throws it hard, and then that slider is a good pitch. It's got a whiff rate north of 40%. So he's got some traits there that are definitely likable as a relief arm. And Brock Moore, I'm intrigued. He's 6'6". Orioles like their tall pitchers out of Oregon. Yeah, again, definitely a reliever. But I found an interesting article that I think MLB Pipeline or MLB.com wrote on him at the beginning of the year. Because last year, his first year of pro ball, he had an ERA of like almost 10. It was a pretty disastrous year for Moore in low A. But they sat down with him and he talked about how at the end of last year, he had the ERA of almost 10 and he separated his shoulder. So it was the first time in his career that he had really struggled. It was the first time in his career that he had been injured in a major way. And so he sat down with some coaches down the farm. He sat down with the Mariners' mental skills coordinators. And he said, quote, "I'm not having fun. It's not who I want to be out there." And whatever that conversation led to clearly worked. He moved past his disastrous 2025 season, and he's been much better this year. So I know he's got moved up to Double A. Of course, he's like a 25, 26-year-old dominating high A. So that's, of course, you're supposed to see like some big numbers, and he struggled with the walks in Double A, but I like the fastball slider combination. Same thing as Alex Hop there. And yeah, Kryling, 17th round pick out of a small school, but didn't pitch last year. His first innings just came like 2 weeks ago as a pro. So they're deploying him. The Mariners deployed him as a starter so far, obviously in like 1-2 inning stints. I'm intrigued to see if the Orioles maybe kind of work with him a little bit behind the scenes the rest of this year and then the offseason. Maybe he starts next year in like Frederick's rotation because he is 24 years old, but he was also a senior sign, and Baseball America wrote him up going into the 2024 draft as like a senior sign standout. And they said he averaged 92, he touched 96, lower release height, flat approach angle, like all the good stuff to make that fastball play up despite maybe the premier velo. But yeah, just like what you just read off there from TJ Stats, trio of secondaries that get good swing and miss. And he throws a changeup for strikes, according to Baseball America. So further away, definitely a project for Kryling. But yeah, again, it's 3 shots, I think, at a really good reliever for Taylor Ward, which, again, not really a ton of emotional connection there to Taylor Ward this year. Unfortunate, the power didn't show up, but it's still walk God. Appreciate him for getting on base. Unfortunately, guys behind him couldn't hit him in a lot of the time. But I think is for who Taylor Ward is and his expiring contract, I like this deal.
Yeah, when I look back at Taylor Ward's tenure as the Orioles, I'll always appreciate the steadiness of it. But you also knew that the Orioles, he was probably not in the team's plans for 2027, not just because of the decline in power, but if they are going to focus on the defense, keeping Taylor Ward around their everyday left fielder is not going to help in that area. So I like getting something back here, and not with a guy in Hop that you can plug in your bullpen right now. And he could possibly be an upgrade and help you out a little bit now that you have lost Tyler Wells. And as I said during our live reaction show, I love this trade because they get Michael Ferret back. Ferret was one of the headliners in the St. Baz trade. Over the winter, he's put up very good numbers in his first season in the Rays system, but he now comes back to the Orioles in a 1-for-1 trade for Wells. Now, I will give Wells a lot of credit for going through a series of ups and downs during his Orioles tenure, being a guy they were able to plug into the rotation early in the 2023 season unexpectedly and have him deliver big numbers over the first half, not to mention come back later in that year, fill in for Felix Bautista as a closer, and even this year having some success in late inning roles, filling in for Ryan Helsley. But He is going to be a free agent after next year. He's had Tommy John surgery twice. So I feel like to get a pitching prospect the caliber of Ferret back for Wells is a clear win for the Orioles. But, Nick, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
That trade was wild. I didn't even see that it was Tyler Wells moved. I just saw the tweet that said Michael Ferret back to the Orioles. I'm like, okay. If I turn the part of my brain off that's furious right now about just the everything we talked about at the beginning of the episode there, this is definitely an awesome move as well. It's wild to me, though, that you look at the long list of Rule 5 eligible guys. They trade none of them, but they bring one back. So clearly, I think maybe this front office is like, you know what? We're not going to have a Rule 5 draft. We're going to be able to keep all these guys, and we will figure it out after there's new CBA, all that's been settled, which is fine with me. Because right now, like, this gives you Michael Ferret, Nestor Herman, basically ready. Trey Gibson's still there as well, already on the 40-man roster. Like, that AAA rotation is looking pretty good right now. And like, I don't know, I've just never really had like much affinity for Tyler Wells. I appreciate, like you mentioned, him stepping up, especially with Ryan Helsley going down. I appreciate what he's done this year. I appreciate everything he's done as far as working back from those two major surgeries, being a Rule 5 pick himself, an older Rule 5 pick, and the yearly conversations of should they stretch him as a starter? Should they just throw him in the bullpen? What should they do with him? I am sad we don't get to have that discussion next year, whenever next year begins. But this is Michael Ferret could start for the Orioles on Tuesday. Like I doubt they go that route because that's so immediate. But as Elias said, we won't go into his whole quotes and all that conversation post deadline. But about Michael Ferret, he said the magic word. He's one phone call away. Just the way he talked about Ferret was typical Mike Elias. They think Ferret's about ready for the major leagues. So I think he comes in, gets a couple starts in Norfolk, one or two, and then the conversations start to grow a little bit louder about calling him up. So I think we see Ferret in the big leagues this month.
I agree. And like I said on our live reaction show, check it out on YouTube, subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, this was my favorite trade, despite getting so much for Adley Rutschman. This was my favorite trade of the day because love Michael Ferret. We've loved Michael Ferret for a long time. He was the one that hurt the most to trade away for Shane Baz, as much as we enjoyed that trade for what it was, and especially now that Baz is extended. To get him back for, and by the way, it's not like he failed with the Rays and we're happy to take him back. No, he excelled with the Rays, and at least TJ Stats, I think he's like 51 number 51 overall prospect on his personal ratings. He loves Michael Ferret, maybe more than even we do. And yeah, it's like, hey, Rays, could you just put the finishing touches on development for Michael Ferret, and we'll get him back for a reliever? Like, not even he's high leverage right now because Ryan Helsley's hurt, Rico Garcia's struggling. Like, he's just a middle reliever. I don't understand what the Rays are seeing here, unless they're going to change him into a starter over the offseason and then maybe try to flip him next trade deadline. I don't know. This was a crazy trade because I know the Rays have a 40-man roster crunch every season, and he is Rule 5 eligible. But if they're thinking what the Orioles are thinking, that you might not even need to protect someone, and he's this close, he could. I just don't understand this from the Rays' perspective at all. But I'm very happy that they decided to do this.
Before we move into the final segment, do either of you have any thoughts about the two cash consideration trades that we saw basically at the last minute, or about the Joe Glassie for a Kristen Franklin swap?
I would only Rhys Hines and Cody Hooer. That's whatever. That's fine. You have 40-man space now. Go ahead. But Joe Glassie, hats off, man. Like, he was an undrafted free agent, turned into a legit relief pitching prospect, and then traded for which I'm assuming now, a major league outfielder to take Taylor Ward's spot. Like, that's pretty good work right there by the front office to identify talent, sign him, not even drafted, develop him into appealing enough to be able to trade him for a guy who, yeah, he's probably stuck in AAA for the Nationals, but he could help the Orioles out, at least in a reserve role in the next couple of years. So another underrated, good trade. I mean, it's not going to change the world. It's not going to probably end up being much either way, but I thought that was a cool deal.
It's the second time now that the Orioles have turned a double-A reliever and turned him into major league help. Like earlier, trading Carter Rustad to Cleveland for Jonathan Rodriguez. And look, Jonathan Rodriguez did give us a game against Boston where he went 2 for 3 with a double and an RBI in a win. But he provided more to the Orioles than Carter Rustad was ever going to provide to the Major League Baltimore Orioles. And yeah, same, hats off to Joe Glassie, undrafted free agent. We've talked about him so much over the last year or two because 10 walks, was it 60, 70 something professional innings, 10 walks. Go back to his college days, no walks. Summer ball, no walks. Cape Cod League, no walks. Like, this guy just doesn't walk, guys. And you trade him for Christian Franklin. He is still an undrafted double-A reliever, so there's like no investment in this guy. I wish him all the best with the Nationals. I truly do. The other guys, again, as long as we're not playing the Orioles, whatever. But when you're coming up against the Orioles again, if the Orioles are playing Boston, like Adley, you're nothing to me at that point right there for that moment. Dean Kramer, I hope you get rocked out in Minnesota when we take you on. But Joe Glassie, I hope he does have success, just not against the Orioles, and eventually reaches the big leagues with the Nationals. I think that'd be a great story. I love seeing the undrafted guys, those unheralded guys, kind of make a name for themselves. And Joe Glassie has done that up to this point. But he is a double-A reliever, and the Orioles got a 40-man outfielder for him. Franklin hasn't made his major league debut, but like I said, he could be the replacement for Taylor Ward right now. And honestly, it's hard when you look at the outfield situation in Double-A and Triple-A. Like, I know we're not to turn this into an EBJ discussion or anything like that, but there are still questions there. And even if his role is, reserve outfielder, speed defense, that whole thing, I think there are still questions. I would love a more definitive take from the organization about like how they view Enrique Bradfield Jr. right now. But I think it's fair to say there's still some questions there with Enrique Bradfield Jr. and what exactly his role is going to be. It's really hard to trust Reed Trimble to stay healthy, even though he's already on the 40-man roster as well. I think he's been healthy for like 2 weeks right now, and that's a really good run for Reed Trimble this year. I hate to say that because when he has been healthy and on the field, he's been phenomenal this season. I don't know if Heston Kjerstad's ever going to contribute anything for you in the major league level. Judge Fabian's not going to help you that much, if any, in the big leagues. There's no one in Double-A that's going to help you out this year. Probably not next year either, if I'm being completely honest. You move a Double-A reliever for a guy who is right there on the cusp of the major leagues and could help you over the next couple of years.
On the verge.
Of
the major leagues.
Tried to avoid that one. But as a depth reserve outfielder, plays good defense. We'll see what he does.
We will now head into our last segment. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. But if you're not heading out to the yard, Checker Spot is still a great place to go and watch the game. They've got good beer to go along with good food and plenty of televisions for following the action. And as a bonus, they are open 7 days a week, so be sure to check them out. Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. And now, this is the ultimate question, probably the most loaded question of the night, and I don't know that we're going to have a clear answer for it, but we'll give ourselves an opportunity here to answer this, which is, what is the direction of the Orioles organization after this trade deadline? Nick, I will start with you.
Short term, immediately, I don't know. There's lots to talk about. This team can still compete. I have a hard time buying that. I honestly don't know where this team is going to go the rest of the season. I don't know how those guys in that clubhouse are going to react, but we can say that, look, say what you will about Gunnar and what all this means about Gunnar's future. If you want to go ahead and start preparing for that now, if you haven't already. But we do still have Gunnar for a little bit longer. You've got Pete Alonso here. You've got Basayo locked down. You do still have members of this team that can produce for you. Hopefully Gunnar can start turning things around a little bit more this year. Hopefully some more of these young guys can step up a little bit more. Can Kobe Mayo do a little bit more? Can Colton Cowser or Dylan Beavers really take a step forward here over these final 2 months? We'll see. But you've got Bradish locked in. You've got Shane Boz locked in. You've got Brandon Young, who's under team control for like many more years. And it's clear where he's at now is this is for real. Hopefully this sticks at least for a couple more years. I think you still got this. We're not going towards full rebuild mode. We're not going for a tear down. Hopefully this is just a quick reset. And I know it's pushing the goalpost back, and I hate that. I truly do hate that. But hopefully this is just a matter of get things straightened out this year. Just finish this year, to be honest. Get Michael Fred up, get Nestor Herman up, get some of these younger guys who are going to be contributors, hopefully, for this team next year. Get them up, get their feet wet, get them ready for 2027, if and when we do have that season. And I don't know. Hopefully this is enough to then, when we do have an offseason, when the Orioles do have a chance to go out and trade from this loaded farm system, they can then go make more big moves. Bring in that additional help that can hopefully push this team over the edge. And whenever we do have baseball again, things get turned around. But on the immediate future, I think we were kind of hinting at this off air before the show. It's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to call up a bunch of 4A guys and we're going to have to slog through that for the next couple of days? Or are we going to see some of these prospects reach the big leagues and get their time now? It would make it at least a little bit more interesting, but it is a tough question to answer right now.
It really is. Nobody wants to hear this, but I still think the future is incredibly bright for this organization. I still think the organization as a whole is as healthy as it's ever been in my time as a fan. And I understand last 2 years at the major league level, super disappointing, whether it's from injuries, bad luck, doesn't matter. Major leagues, you need results. Haven't been there. But just overall, this is a deep, strong farm system. There is real talent on the major league team. Like, the only difference when the Orioles play tomorrow night from the active roster on Sunday afternoon is Taylor Ward is gone. You actually upgraded a catcher because Adley and Basai are on the IL. Temporary, sure. But Navarez takes that place. And that's basically it. Tyler Wells is gone. Like, if Gunnar becomes Gunnar again, if Mayo continues, he's really progressed slowly, but definite progression this year. If he continues that, if Basayo comes back and catches fire, like, the rotation's still strong. Ryan Helsley comes back. This team could still make the playoffs. Like, the Detroit Tigers did that a couple of years ago when they traded at the deadline and then caught fire in the last couple of months, made the playoffs. Had a fun run in the playoffs too, if I'm not mistaken. But the future, man, the pitching talent in this organization is off the charts. Orioles fans will not believe it until they're like 3 years deep in strong careers. But yeah, the pitching is great. The hitting talent is still there. Like, I'm still optimistic about the future. 2026 sucked before today. It sucks a lot worse because of today. But I think the future will be better because of today as well.
In the immediate future, just get ready for more of the same frustration we've had the rest of the way. As Bob just pointed out, if you're looking at the active roster, and let's say that Adley's would not have been back for a few weeks, basically half of August, you're looking at two players that you've lost, Taylor Ward and Tyler Wells. Otherwise, it's not looking a whole lot different. So there's probably going to be some weeks coming up where the Orioles play really well, and they give you that little bit of hope of like, oh, what if they can go on a run? And then they'll go out and they'll lose 2 out of 3 in a series where they play really bad defense or they just stop hitting or a combination of both those things. Long term, with the right moves, and that's something we'll talk about later on, with the right moves, they can handle this the way that good, sustainable organizations handle these dips. Milwaukee has been through this before. Tampa Bay has been through this before. The Guardians have been through this before. The Guardians traded Francisco Lindor years ago, and it looked like that was going to be the end of them for a while, and they bounced back kind of quickly. So organizations that are not spending at the top tier or in the big markets do go through these blips, and you just hope that it's minimized. And hopefully this time next year, we're talking about the Orioles being buyers at the deadline, looking ahead to the future, saying if they're able to pick back up in those 2 years of 70 to 80 win seasons, where all that was in the middle, it's not the worst possible outcome, but there's a lot of work to do to get there.
I will say, with all this influx of talent from the draft and the deadline, it's going to be some rough cuts coming up. Some really talented guys about to lose their jobs in this organization because there's so many good players, and hopefully they can latch on somewhere else.
Yeah, and I know for us, when we do our top 50 list next week, it's going to be some tough decisions, but we do have an episode coming out later this week highlighting our July All-Stars for the Orioles minor league system. Be sure to check that out. In the meantime, you can follow us on our many social media channels, including YouTube, as Bob mentioned earlier in the show. We're also at Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok. and twits. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. While you're browsing around the internet, be sure to go to Patreon.com and sign to become a member today at $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, monthly updates to our top 50, patron-exclusive channels in our Discord community, and a whole lot more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens and Zach Spedden, you're listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.